My name is Phil Jackman, and welcome to this week's In Conversation, in which I talk to people in the Northeast's dynamic and exciting cybersecurity industry. Brought to you by Cyber North, Dynamo Northeast Cybersecurity Cluster. We're supported by Accenture and the Innovation Super Network, and we're part of UK Cyber Cluster Collaboration, or UKC3, and recognised by Department for Culture, Media and Sport and the National Cybersecurity Centre as representing the region. Today, I'm joined by Michael Lamb, founder and director of Vanguard Cyber Security. Hi, Michael. How are you doing?
Not bad yourself, Phil.
Excellent, thanks. And so, can you start by telling us a bit about yourself and your role at Vanguard Cyber Security?
Yeah, of course. So I founded Vanguard about May 2020. So that was about the time when COVID was pretty much kicking off. It was beginning. At the time, I was consulting with nato, and I decided it was just time to create a small footprint in the Northeast. So we're a small cybersecurity consultancy. We did have an office in Jarrow, just next to Tyne Tunnel, and we actually attracted a market that seemed to be global. So we created strategic alliances in the US. We worked on cybersecurity incidents across Europe, across Ireland, and also further down south in the UK as well. So we mainly work on the technical side of things as far as cybersecurity is concerned. So that's things like ransomware incidents, phishing incidents. But what we found is there is a massive market for helping customers understand what the risk is, how to mitigate that. So we do have a proactive practice in place where clients can deliver their requirements to us, whereby they want to do a security assessment and just understand what risks are out in their estate, and understand what controls they can put in place to mitigate that. More recently, we found quite a drive for incident readiness. How ready is a client for an incident if they get hit? So that's looking at creating things like playbooks, understanding what actions they can take, who's responsible for those actions as well. And these are all big hitters when a client becomes hit by, let's say, a ransomware incident. These things, whilst they seem to be kind of overlooked before an incident, if they're covered beforehand, let's say in a tabletop exercise, people understand who's ready, what capabilities they have in-house, what are their weak points, and at least they're aware that they haven't sorted those out. So we try to address quite a lot of different problems at the minute in cybersecurity, as well as trying to stay ahead and stay relevant. We are moving into the cloud space. We're aware that there is a big push to the cloud, and with that, the threat is evolving towards it. But I think that's something that a lot of organisations have been aware is coming.
Excellent. So you've been really busy of late. So when did you decide that cybersecurity was for you, and how did you qualify? How did you get yourself into this?
Yeah, to be honest, it was an interesting one for me. I didn't have a degree. I at least attended university, but never finished that. I'd done part of a cybersecurity apprenticeship with HMRC, but again, didn't finish it, and that was just for varying reasons. There was other opportunities available. There were opportunities within the civil service that I was very fortunate to take advantage of. So really, it was very much a bit of moving around until I eventually just ended up in the seat of a cybersecurity analyst. I would say the analyst role is normally the first kind of step into cybersecurity operations, but it's definitely not. It's not the only way in.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. So if my timing is right, if I work this out properly, you started Vanguard at the start of COVID. Probably a great decision. But so why did you start the company, and how difficult was it to get it going?
Yeah, I mean, actually, the company was started at the time when I shifted from permanent work to contracting. Again, a crazy choice to make, given what the world was going through. And at the time, I'd actually just packed all my bags and went to Belgium to work with nato. Vanguard itself became an idea to expand into more of a consultancy front than anything else after finishing that engagement. And like I say in the previous answers, it was more just to create a footprint in the Northeast. Like I say, I actually found some more alliances in the US, customers across Europe as well. So it's been a really interesting time going through COVID. The only thing that I've noted from the whole COVID thing is actually it's only driven the cybersecurity market in the right direction. And that's simply because the threat definitely hasn't let off during that. Obviously, we had a lot of office-based work being moved remotely. We had VPNs, remote access. There was a lot of risk being exposed all of a sudden. and the threat just took advantage of that, and as a result, it created a lot of business.
Yeah, there seems to be quite a lot of businesses have started during COVID, and yeah, just a different set of issues, I think. So you've talked about business across the world, across the country. How do you track that business?
It's interesting. So we track a lot of business actually off the back of the dark web. Again, that seems to be a term that's thrown around a lot, but what that means is actually we use platforms like Telegram to monitor for when companies have fell victim to ransomware. At the moment, we're seeing a lot of double extortion campaigns whereby a company's estate becomes encrypted, and the other part is where the extortion comes in because the data has been exfiltrated. The threat actor does want a fee paid to essentially stop the release of that data. As a result, if that data is released, then there's of course some heavy ICO fines at risk, GDPR impact, and more importantly, reputational impact for the business as well. And I've seen companies on the verge of ceasing operations because of that impact, where board executives step away, investors step away. So it's all about minimizing that impact. So we track a lot of business coming through where they're at risk of that data being leaked. We tend to reach out. If not, we have a lot of strategic alliances with endpoint detection and response vendors such as SentinelOne. And we also just collaborate with other security consultants around the country who just need a bit more help on incidents.
Excellent, excellent. So looking back then, is there anything you would have done differently in setting up Vanguard?
I'd have probably gave it more time. Obviously being young, I think I'd only been in the industry, I guess, for about 3 years before incorporating the business. And I think by giving it more time, it would have helped understand some things which I had to learn along the way. Having said that, it's been something I've actually been able to keep up with. The pace at sometimes can be a little bit difficult, kind of running a business, trying to work normal jobs as well to keep cash flow going. But to be honest, I wouldn't be so hasty. You know, if somebody said, "Do you want to go back 12 months and change this thing?" Even though I'm sat here saying I probably would, I don't think I would. I think everything's been quite well, to be honest, for the cards that were dealt at the time. There was a lot of challenges.
Yeah, and there's nothing like experience to teach you how to do these things, is there? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You've had really interesting contract work. Without giving too much away, can you tell us a bit about the stuff at HMRC?
Yeah, of course. So essentially, I worked there as a cybersecurity engineering consultant. So a lot of projects were stood up to help remediate risks. So those projects were to bring in new technology. It was essentially administering cloud servers. It's very hard not to go into detail with those roles, but essentially those projects were there just to remediate risk. And it's really good to see a government department stepping up, investing in that technical risk, and bringing external people on board to help that, and they're recognising that there is talent elsewhere, kind of outside the civil service as well, that can help bring a fresh outlook on things.
Excellent. And I think I know the answer to this next question. Can you tell us anything about your time at NATO?
Little bits. So essentially, my role pretty much was a senior cybersecurity analyst that was working in their 24/7 security function, monitoring the network for cybersecurity risks that would impact soldiers that were out in theatre, helping protect their main capability, which is sharing intelligence across the other intelligence stakeholders around the world. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much what it was. It, to be honest, wasn't so different to a normal cybersecurity analyst role, where you're sat in front of a lot of screens, you're monitoring SIEMs, you're monitoring AV, you're collaborating with different people in that organisation to make sure things get sorted. It's just a different landscape altogether, which is the very interesting thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and a very real issue these days. Yeah, so the threat in Ukraine is. But okay, we could do with more cybersecurity in the businesses, cybersecurity startups in the region. You may not think so, but I would certainly, as a region, we could do with them. So what advice or guidance would you give to anybody who's interested in setting up?
That's an interesting one. I would definitely like to see a lot more cybersecurity business in the Northeast. I think it's just going to help drive the market, and it's going to expose requirements for clients as well. It's very hard at the minute when you're one of the very few. I think that there might probably is only a handful of cybersecurity businesses in the Northeast. So it's very hard to approach a client and say, you need cybersecurity, when there's not many of us around there. The one thing I guess I would advise to people thinking about starting up in that space is understanding what drives those requirements, and ultimately understand why a client might engage you for your services. So obviously, like I say, we started out 2 years ago offering solely just response, where we come in and run digital forensics, malware analysis, threat intelligence. We tend to aim help with negotiating ransom costs and stuff. But ultimately, what we found was, for a turnover basis and revenue, is it doesn't bring in a lot. It's not recurring revenue every year. So the one thing that I would recommend is understanding that consultancy piece. What brings clients back? How do you identify risks that you can help drive the success? That was definitely a missed point in the early days, really, when the business was incorporated.
Excellent, thanks. That's really good advice. And my final question to you, what one thing would you like to see happen in the next 12 months?
I think, actually, to be honest, just based on this discussion, is more cybersecurity business in the Northeast. I'll actually plug Aspire Technology Solutions. So they've just moved from Heworth to the Quayside. They are a big player in the ISP game, at least in the Northeast and across the UK. But they are definitely starting to step into cybersecurity operations, and that's an exciting move. So I'd like to see more of that in the next 12 months. I'd like to see IT businesses and tech businesses with existing customers and already have a market footprint to tap into that market. There's a lot of customers out there that are still going in an unsecure manner. So that's what I'd like to see more of.
Excellent, that's great. Well, thank you very much for that, Michael. I'd also like to thank Robert Campbell, who's helped me to set up these in conversations and does all the bits in the background. Look out for the next Now series, and if you're interested in taking part or know someone who would, please get in touch. Thanks, Michael.
Cheers, Phil.
That was In Conversation with Phil Jackman, lead for Cyber North. Audio and video production was by me, Robert Campbell. This was a Team Funds production for Dynamo Northeast.